Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality.
Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I swear to you, that opening is my favorite thing we've done on this channel since we started. That's just clever. JD, was that you or was that Kyle?
That was all Kyle's idea.
Well, Kyle nailed it on that one. It's a home run.
Possibly because it was all in the public domain.
Could be, but yeah, I think that's awesome. So I'm going to get this out there right away, guys. I know some of you are very happy. Some of you are very upset. But you just have to accept that it happened and move on. The Dodgers won the World Series. That's just the way it is. I know they bought it, and money well spent. So, accept world champions. And if you thought I was talking about the other things, no, not here. All right, guys, stick around. We're going to talk to Penguin right after this. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, depending on your time. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Hello to Jay, to Ed, and to Preston. Good to see you guys. We are going to do our normal type of show. We're going to do our news. We're going to do our talk about the Penguin, and we're going to go from there. I keep changing the background here. So we do have the Batman figures, pop figures, including Penguin. And we do, this is my Grey Knights army from Warhammer. They're not all painted yet, but they're getting there. And just so you know, we may have an army, but they still have a Hulk. Love that joke. All right. Let's jump into, by the way, Ed says the Tigers making the playoffs and actually winning the series was my World Series celebration. So enjoy your Dodgers. I forgot the Tigers were still a team. That's not meant to be rude, but I mean, the thing I remember the most about the Tigers is where Kirk Gibson was before he came to the Dodgers and won the World Series in '88. But, yeah. But your Lions are doing good. So, and the Tigers got to the playoffs, so that's great. Okay. Before this becomes sports talk, which it could easily do, when I was working over at Bleeding Cool, we started doing sports, and I started covering football and baseball and stuff over there for a while, and would do my draft day predictions and stuff like that. That was always fun. But so, yeah, I'm well-versed with sports, so I could easily switch over to that. But that's not what you guys are here for. I know you guys are here to look at my picture of my dear Artemis. But all right, let's get to the news. Now the Pistons need to pick it up. Yeah, it's been a long time since the Pistons have been good either. So I do remember them being a really tough team. So, all right. Got some interesting news today. A couple hours ago, I didn't think we'd have much news at all, but a lot of stuff has been hitting. Alien, is it Alien Romulus? Yeah. Alien Romulus will hit Hulu on November 21st. So if you haven't seen it, you'll get your chance. I want the Stanley Cup back. Oh, yeah, the Detroit Red Wings. Yeah, another good team. I guess Detroit sports is better than I'm thinking it was. I just forget about the Tigers. All right, so, yeah, you're going to get Alien Romulus on Hulu on November 21st. That's a 90-day theatrical window, which is pretty robust, kind of getting Disney back to what they used to do before Bob Chapek came on the scene. And if you're wondering why things had changed with Chapek, is that Chapek had his bonus tied to the number of subscriptions on Disney Plus. So a lot of his stuff was geared to getting more and more people to watch on Disney Plus. With Bob Iger back, they're back to trying to keep it in the theaters for as long as possible. This is the second highest grossing Aliens movie in the box office. It grossed 105.3 million domestically and 350.8 million worldwide, which is behind the Alien prequel Prometheus, which made 126.4 million domestically and 403.3 million worldwide. So, hey, Kenneth, good to see you. So Alien Romulus, of course, was set 20 years after the original Alien movie, the one made in 1979, and follows a group of young colonizers who come face to face with the worst life form while scavenging the deep ends of the derelict space station. Yeah, I wouldn't want to run into those xenomorphs either. That just seems like a bad idea. All right, so we saw the finale of Agatha All Along, and the creator showrunner Jack Schaefer explained, as a huge Aliens fan, Jenna really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Well, cool. Might have to get a chance to watch it. So Jack Schaefer, creator and showrunner of Agatha All Along, was asked about the ending specifically, and that moment where Agatha tells Billy how she's not ready to see him, meaning her son Nicholas Scratch, after she became a ghost, why she was hanging out. So she was asked whether that was about guilt having not saved him, or if it was more about the fact that she used their song that they created together for evil purposes. Now, Schaefer says it's both. It's the fact that she couldn't save him, that she couldn't find the knowledge or power to save him. And it's the fact that he always leaned towards good. He didn't want to kill witches. He didn't want to live her lifestyle. Instead of rehabilitating herself on his death, she doubled down. And as you said, she used his song to become essentially a mass murderer. I think there's so much shame for her in that. Now, Schaefer analyzed the sequence which Agatha was killing witches throughout different eras of time, seeing someone grieving in that moment. She doubled down on the idea of the shame and commented on that being part of her connection point with Billy, who reminds her of her late son. Schaefer said, I watched the final sequence that we call Agatha Through Time, where the camera's swirling around and she's conning and killing witches through the ages. And what I see is someone grieving. She can't get full. She can't fill herself up. And so she's just eating and eating and eating. I find it really heartbreaking. I think she has so much shame because she knows, but that's part of her connection point with Billy. Obviously, he reminds her of Nikki, and she can get close to their good. She can't get close to their goodness, but she's not quite there herself, if that makes sense. Triple B's here. Excellent. Jay says, I know the show did well, but I think a lot of people missed out on this because they're so down on Marvel. This show was awesome. It was. Agatha All Along was so much better than I expected, and it was good. And then the 7th episode kicked in and just elevated the show. That 7, 8, and 9 were spectacular. One thing The one thing I no one's really talked about much is that we do see right before Rio comes and collects Nikki's soul, or collects Nikki, that's the day that he doesn't let her kill anybody. He begs off, and that's when he dies. And you have to wonder, if he had gone through, would she have been satiated and not come for him that night? Or was he destined to die that night anyway? That's a rough one, isn't it? All right. Have you ever had an actor answer a question that you didn't think needed to be asked? In an interview with Variety, Jude Law says that he doesn't think there will be more of Jan Rog in the MCU. I don't think anybody thought there was going to be more Jan Rog in the MCU. But he said, I don't think there was much more they could get out of Jan Rog. That, for me, was the height of Marvel. Now, Law said he had fun making the movie, but wished he could have leaned into it a bit more. He said, it was a really good experience. I wish I had been allowed to have a bit more fun with the part. I wanted him to be more arch. I wanted to lean into the humor more. Now, he also talked about how it was hard to move in the costumes that they wore for Captain Marvel, saying, also, those suits are hard to move in because they're thick rubber. You can go to stunt camp for a couple months where you're doing all this fighting rehearsal and learning to do all this stuff, and then you put on the suit and you go, oh, I can't touch my toes. How am I going to do all that stuff with this thing on? You figure it out, though. Now, there's a negativity towards the Captain Marvel movie, which I don't share. I enjoyed the movie well enough. Jan Rog, I thought, could have been better developed. It was kind of that era where Marvel was just kind of phoning it in on villains. So I love the idea that maybe they would have given him some more to do, more, scenery chewing or something. Just, yeah, I think it was a missed effort. Jude Law is a good actor, and they could have done more with him. Is that the death Deadpool and Thanos are fighting over? Man, do I get it? Yes, that is the same death. Yes. Speaking of Deadpool, good segue there, Jay. It's unclear what the future holds for Channing Tatum's Gambit in the MCU after his triumphant debut in Deadpool and Wolverine, but Ryan Reynolds says Marvel's obsessed with this performance. He said, I honestly don't know what goes on behind closed doors in the bookkeeping sessions at Marvel, but I do know that they're obsessed with him in that role. It's kind of like the same situation I went through. Once you show that it works well, that's really what they need. Sometimes they just need to see it in action, and Channing is so singular in how he plays that character, but also he's so beautifully physical. That way he moves and the way he can pick up steps. Now, prior to Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox, Channing Tatum was supposed to headline his own Gambit film. And that ended up being shut down when Disney bought Fox. But Reynolds and director Sean Levy were able to let Tatum realize his dream of playing the character in Deadpool and Wolverine, which is also an ode to the Fox era of Marvel movies. So it's a movie that never happened, but it was so talked about, they went ahead and made it happen. Now, the team released a not quite deleted scene online to show that Gambit does survive the ending. Now, they put it online, but it's also in the movie. If you notice, it's on one of the screens in the background in one of the ending scenes. So you see that Gambit survives. So maybe we will get more Gambit with Channing Tatum. That's one thing that Marvel is good at, is when something works, they kind of do it again and again and again and again. So now, staying with Deadpool and Wolverine, there was a rumor originally that they would try to get him Ben Affleck or Nicolas Cage to come back. Affleck played Daredevil and Cage played Ghost Rider. And according to Reynolds, this was basically true. He said they were in early drafts. We had versions of that sequence, but then it shook out. You sort of looking. We're trying to make the movie responsibly as well. It's a big budget. It's the biggest budget of any of the Deadpool movies, but you want to give yourself as much constraint, which really, I think, facilitates asymmetrical thinking and creativity. If you have too much time or too much money, it usually murders that kind of creativity. So yeah, you're shrinking things, but we did talk to Nick Cage. We tried to get him, but he was a no-go. I would have loved him. Now, most of the casts they got were because Ryan Reynolds ended up calling them personally. It wasn't a matter of, hey, let's get these people to call this agent. He would literally called up Jennifer Gardner and Wesley Snipes and stuff like that to ask them to come back. So Ryan Reynolds is really becoming powerful in this industry, and I find it fascinating. So, all right, we got 2 more bits of news stories for you. Lucasfilm is said to have closed a deal with Simon Kinberg. And Simon has had his fingers on so many projects, Logan, Marvel stuff. The guy is all over the place. Well, he has signed a deal with Lucasfilms to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief, of course, Kathleen Kennedy. Now, there's conflicting reports. Some say that this will compromise episodes 10 through 12 of the Star Wars saga, basically being, picking up from the Rey's saga. Now, will this be the next version of Rey, since Rey is now Rey Skywalker? Doesn't say that, but others say this will be its own thing, separate from the Skywalker saga, and will be more like out there with James Mangold and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and Taika Waititi and Donald Glover, as outside of the Skywalker saga. Now, as usual, Lucas and Disney are not commenting, but Kinberg previously worked with Lucasfilm to co-create with Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck Star Wars Rebels that ran for 4 seasons. He was also a consultant on Star Wars Episode 4, The Force Awakens, and so he's got his connections, and there's a good chance that this one may go forward. He's good at pushing things through, but we'll wait and see if that happens. Star Wars stuff has been so all over the place lately. And then one last thing, a Mass Effect TV series is officially in development at Amazon MGM Studios. Daniel Casey is set to write and executive produce the adaptation. Now, exact plot details are being kept under wraps. Now, it was previously reported in 2021 that Amazon was in negotiations to develop a Mass Effect TV series, but this is the first update we've gotten since then. There had also been various attempts to develop a feature film based on the game, but that never ended up materializing. So, all right, guys, we are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Penguin and how they're doing a really good job to making sure he doesn't become a hero. Be right back.
Download our app on Google Play and the App Store. It's so simple, even my mommy can use it.
Some comic live streams seem like they're just throwing everything at the wall. Hey, you want this unknown comic? Yeah, here, how about this boring one? Found this one in a rain gutter, give me some money for it. I know this looks like a rotting sandwich, but I swear it's a comic. Pay me! But with Comic Collectibles, we know you don't just want comics, you want the right comics. You want rare variant and incentive covers, vintage books in pristine condition at prices you won't find anywhere else, and truly unique hand-drawn cover sketches by some of the most amazing artists in the business. Join Rex and his rotating cast of co-hosts live from Dynamite Entertainment headquarters for a carefully curated roster of comics that you'll only find here at Comic Collectibles. Every Monday at 6 and Wednesday at 7 Eastern Time. Part of the experience.
Are we back already? I thought that would take a second longer. I'm getting the link real quick. All right. There we go. I'm going to put that to JD. All right. So JD is going to share this link I just put up when he gets a chance. And it is for my mailing list for Obsidian Moon. I've talked about it a little bit. I just want to remind you guys about it. It is my upcoming project. It is going to be a cohesive universe featuring multiple projects, most likely novels at this point. I'm still working out the details, but it's going to combine together a bunch of different properties. And I'm going to kick it off in 2025, but the mailing list is going to be big. So, sign up now and you will be informed. I'm going to do a launch show on Sunday night soon. And you guys will find out about that and everything is going on. I will talk about the projects that will be involved and how I've been basically putting this together for 30 years without knowing it. So check that out. Sign up for the mailing list. And like I said, there will be a rough launch show where I will explain everything and answer all questions coming up very shortly. Probably in what used to be the Pop Go the Writers slot, which I still haven't figured out what I'm doing with yet. So I will let you guys know. Jay says, when are we getting a deep dive on that, Dan? That's what we're going to get. We're going to get it soon, but it'll be over on my channel. So I will talk to you guys more about that. Like I said, sign up for the mailing list. I won't flood you guys with a bunch of stuff. It'll only be really important news. Also, if I get to a certain point, I think when I get to 1,000 signups, I will give you guys a PDF of a free novel, the first Lucius Fogg book, which will tie into this property, or this series of properties. All right. Well, as soon as Dan answered what I asked, well, happy to help. All right, guys. Since Ed is here, there's one thing. We'll only use your info to get in touch with you about your car's extended warranty. Yes, this is all a trick for that. Yes. Since Ed is here, he's been asking me about something for a while now, and I wanted to at least take a minute and address that. I got a chance to finish Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2. And it was hard for me to get through them, not because they're bad, but because my girlfriend now lives with me and our TV time is usually together. And she likes to watch what I'm watching, vice versa. And she had not seen the first season. So she's still playing catch up on it. So we didn't do a lot of them in a row where, a new show, I can just blast through it. It's like she's eager to watch the new Alex Cross series coming out later this month. But we got through the Rings of Power Season 2, and it was so much better than Season 1. Season 1 wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. Season 2, though, was a lot better, a lot faster paced. And I'm really liking what they're doing with it. What's funny, though, is I saw something coming a mile away. There's a point where one of the Harfoots, I think they're the Harfoots, the older hobbits, refers to the stranger as Grandelf. And as soon as I heard that, I went, that's awful close to something else, isn't it? And sure enough, by the time the series ends, he gets his name, and we know what it is now. And I won't say it in case you're not watching, but it's good. And if you have Amazon Prime, it's worth watching. The visual effects on that show are fantastic. It feels like it's the movies. I mean, you go from a TV. Do you remember how it used to be? You'd see a movie and then you'd see a TV show based off of it, and you could tell that it was a TV version. The special effects were nowhere in the ballpark. It didn't have that same feel, the same grittiness or whatever that made the movie work. That's not the case anymore. Lord of the Rings, these Rings of Power series feel like they're part of the Peter Jackson stuff. I mean, you could watch them and then go right into The Hobbit and right into The Lord of the Rings, and there's not a lot of disconnect. It doesn't have that shocking, lower quality look that you used to get with television. And another one that's doing that is The Penguin. The Penguin feels like the Batman show. It feels like we're just looking at the same thing from a different angle. And I think that's fantastic. Even with Marvel stuff nowadays, I mean, you still get that, oh, this is a TV show. That's the movie. What they did with Lord of the Rings is definitely not that. It definitely feels seamless. And the Penguin kind of feels the same way to me. So, but yeah, that's really enjoyed it. And every once in a while, Lisa will ask me, well, who's that? And in my mind, I'll go, well, that's Isildur. And then, like, the information will start coming back, like, well, yeah, that's the one that he chops the finger off of Sauron and gets the ring, and he's the one that ends up using. So it's funny how much information is actually in there, because I don't consider myself a big Lord of the Rings guy. I enjoy them, but I'm not. Stephen Colbert's knowledge of Lord of the Rings, my knowledge of Lord of the Rings, it's not in the same ballpark. But it's still interesting to go, oh, wait, no, I remember that. Oh, I can see that connection here, So, oh, that sword he's just been given, that's going to be an important sword, that kind of thing is really cool. Ed says, that's a great comparison, Dan. I never would have lumped those together, but you're 100% correct. Yeah, they're the quality of those TV shows are really good nowadays, and it kind of blows me away a bit. So, but I think it helps when you bring the same people working on one into the other. Jay says, I hope that the DCU utilizes Max to do specials. I don't care if it's copying Marvel. Would love to have something like For the Man Who Has Everything with the actual DCU movie cast. We're going to have that answer next year, I think it is, with Lanterns. Lanterns is going to be the first real test. I mean, we saw a little of it with Peacemaker, but Peacemaker felt like it was a one-off. It felt like it was part of the Suicide Squad, but Suicide Squad felt a little different. Lanterns is going to be done in that HBO style. Lanterns is what they're doing, what Matt Reeves is doing, in that Matt Reeves sat down and went, I'm going to make a Batman movie, but I'm going to make a detective noir series that happens to star Batman. When he did the Penguin, it wasn't, I'm going to make a Penguin series, it's I'm going to make a gangster series that's going to happen to tell the story of the Penguin. And that seems to be what they're doing with Lanterns, is that they're going to basically do a true detective style series with the Lanterns. I hope it works. I absolutely hope it works. I hope they get that gritty and that, in the dirt type of stuff. So we shall see. Ed says, my name is in the credits for all of the extended edition DVDs on Lord of the Rings. Why is your name in the credits, Ed? Did you work on them? Well, see, now I want to know what Ed's thing is. Also, while we're waiting for Ed, do me a favor, all of you. In just a quick sentence, what is your thoughts on the Penguin series? We're going to dive into it. And I've got a lot of info coming from Matt Reeves. But I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts on the Penguin? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you not watching it? Are you looking forward to the finale? Just a quick idea of what you guys think about the Penguin series. And we're going to get into what I've got. See, with the fact that we're just a couple of days away from the Penguin finale, the show, to me, has really been hitting on all cylinders. And I don't think there's been a down episode yet. of any of the 7 so far. I feel that it's just been chugging greatly, and I would be stunned if the finale doesn't keep up that same level. It would just blow my mind if it suddenly blows up, because one of the things that happens in a lot of the Marvel movie or Marvel TV shows is you get to that finale and you go, how the hell are they going to wrap all this stuff up? And normally what they do is they just kind of, the endings are never as satisfying in most of the Marvel series. Some have been. Loki was. I thought Agatha's was. But others, they seem kind of rushed and they go for the big fight rather than the actual wrapping things up appropriately. This doesn't feel like we have a ton of stuff to deal with. This feels like we've got to resolve what's going on between Oz and Sophia. And whatever ends up being the outcome of that is going to be what goes forward. And I think that's perfect. So, Ed answered. One of the founding members of the original Lord of the Rings fan club, they sent me script pics, asked opinions on what to include for the extended edition. I got cast cards. That is awesome, man. So at the end of the extended editions, they list all the original founding members that contributed to the films. I love that, Ed. I absolutely love that. Jay says, Ed, you, my friend, bow to no one. Straight from Lord of the Rings. Jay is excited to watch The Penguin, as am I. So, focusing on The Penguin. He says, I'll also be in the credits to the new documentary called Making of John Carpenter's The Thing, that's coming out next year. Very cool. All right, so what's going on with The Penguin at this point? I loved Matt Reeves' The Batman. The 2022 film. I know Ed does too. And I was excited for this project. This chance to expand on a minor character, knowing, Penguin was a minor character in the films, but in the comics, he's a much bigger character. But I don't think he's ever really been... He feels like a different kind of rogue than the others. Riddler and Joker, and all of them seem to be driven by their neuroses. They're driven by their what happened to them. Where the Penguin, I don't think, was ever really driven that much. Most of Batman's rogues are a mirror image of an element of Batman. Batman's the world's greatest detective. The Riddler is kind of that equivalent. The Joker is the opposite of Batman's obsession to help or to stop crime. He's the prince of crime. They're usually a different aspect of Batman. And that's why they work so well. Batman strikes fear into the hearts of his villains. Scarecrow strikes fear into everybody. That's what it is. Penguin was originally created to be kind of a mirror of the Bruce Wayne aspect of Batman and how you could go a different direction. But that's not the case here. In this case, he's becoming more of a real Batman villain from the tragedy of his youth, the damage that was done to him, and the reaction. What they do with this 7th episode is just stunning. But so what they're doing at the show, though, they're expanding on it and giving us that backstory, which I absolutely love. Now, Colin Farrell's appearance in the film was small, like I said, but it was an important role. And he received a lot of great reviews for his portrayal, but also for the prosthetics that made him unrecognizable. Now, I'm also someone who has broken down a couple characters on a psychological level. I really enjoy doing that, and I really want to get back and do more characters. And in a lot of ways, that's exactly what this show has done. But instead of the clinical approach that I do with my videos, where it's like, well, how they're portrayed and stuff like that, Reeves and showrunner Lauren LaFranc made it into a narrative story to show the growth of the character from his appearance in the films to becoming a major player in the crime families, as well as show the building blocks of his personality. Thank you, Jay. Now, recently Reeves was interviewed by Andy Serkis, of all people, the guy that plays Alfred, about the Batman epic crime saga, which I love that name. And the director kind of got in deep on the character of Oz. Now, according to Reeves, the idea of the film came from the fact that the Batman is focused on the world from Bruce Wayne's point of view, Batman's point of view, from above the city. Other characters would have different views, and Oz was one of the ones he wanted to explore first. A chance to see Gotham from the street and alleys of the bad parts of town, from Crown Point, stuff like that. And it was also a chance to focus on a character that wouldn't get a chance to really focus on in the films. You couldn't spend that much time on Oz. Now, Reeves points out that in the comics, Batman came first, and then the rogues started showing up. Originally, he fought mob bosses and gangsters and corrupt politicians. That's what they did in the beginning. And then they started doing the colorful villains. So Batman wasn't a response to characters like the Riddler, Two-Face, and Joker. They were a response to him. And part of the Long Halloween, which is one of the building blocks for what Matt Reeves is doing, is telling the story of the transition from Gotham being controlled by crime bosses to the costumed rogues. And while the Batman itself isn't an origin story, it's the early days of the vigilante's career, so the rogues would also just be starting out. It's that point where it starts to shift. Now, this is where he started with the Penguin. Part of a crime family, but not as a kingpin. He's mocked, he's ridiculed for his limp, he's a joke. And the name Penguin is actually an insult, but he's also underestimated. We first meet him as an underling to Carmine Falcone, but he acts like he's more. Now, in film noir terms, he's the red herring, the misdirect. In most mob stories, Oz would have been the informant. But here it ends up being Carmine. Now, the original plan was to pick up from there in the sequel to show Oz moving up. But then when HBO wanted to do a series, it became the perfect way to tell that story, allowing them to leave the Batman movies from Batman's point of view, but also getting to expand on the world of Oz. So, and again, that's what makes the Batman, that's one of the elements that makes the Batman a noir detective series instead of a crime story, because, again, the red herring, the character that's specifically there to throw the viewer off. Now, there was a deleted scene in the movie that featured Oz and Selina Kyle that Reeves talks about. He said, there actually was a scene that we cut out where he thinks he's talking only to Selina, but she's got the contact lenses in. Batman is witnessing this. And when he realizes that she wants to go, Oz realizes that she wants to go down and work in the other club, you suddenly see this vulnerability coming from him. You realize, oh, he actually cares about her. He has a crush on her. When she says, I don't want your money, Oz, that really wounds him. In this moment where you think his life is one of being rejected and part of his ambition is driven by seeking some acceptance, then he says, I know nobody sees it, but one day the city's going to be mine. Now, Colin did this thing. It was very dark in a great way to let you know there was a lot more there. A lot of who we're seeing in this series comes from that scene. So even though that was a deleted scene, that was the impetus for the growth that we're seeing out of Oz now. And one of the keys to the success of this series has to be the ability to make the audience sympathize with Oz and then remind us how horrible he really is. They do this with such ease that you don't really realize they're doing it until the darkness pops back up. You can see how his relationship with his mother was manipulative and creepy and a major motivation for the character, but you also see that he's a sociopath. He has the ability to kill and lie without blinking, and he has that from a very early age. Now, the closest thing to a reaction to killing we got from him was in the very first episode of the series, or after killing Alberto Falcone, he gets upset. Not because he's killed someone, because he recognizes the mess that he had just made and all that he's going to have to do to fix it. Now, even the most recent episode, the audience isn't sure if Oz's part in his brother's death was an accident or on purpose. But once his actions happened, he stuck with it, telling lies with ease. But they do this with Sophia and Sal as well. We see all that Sophia went through and how she was treated by her father, and when you start to sympathize with her, she kills her whole family and sends her niece to a foster care. We see Sal mourning his wife and son, cooking a meal that Nadia taught him, and yet this is a guy who's ready to kill every member of Oz's family and is actually disappointed that there aren't more members for him to kill. This is a show about really horrible people, and the writers don't let us forget that even when they're making us understand why they're so horrible. These are not anti-heroes. Oz enjoyed burning up Sal's family. There was a glee in his eyes as he watched them engulf in flames. Sophia took joy in gassing everyone in the house except for Johnny Vitti and then killing him later. She's almost dancing as she's going through the house. They're proactive in their evil. It's not like, oh, this is just thrust upon them. They've accepted it and lean into it. And with anything that happens in or around the Dark Knight, Gotham is a major part of the story. Reeves talks about his version of the city, saying, I wanted Gotham to be a city that is not New York or Chicago or Pittsburgh, but still an American Gothic city. I wanted to feel like a city that you've never quite been to before, so it felt truly like its own place. But it was important to me that the place exists in our world, so that the audience coming to it would understand the wish fulfillment and struggles of being in a Gothic metropolis. It's grounded in its corruption and desperation, and Gotham never gets better. It's a good thing for the comics because otherwise Batman would be done with his mission. But there's something that is true about that in our world too. If we look at our great cities, of course, there are glorious things about them, but some things never are repaired. The disparities and extremes of Gotham, for me, is one of the reasons I wanted to do Batman. Batman is in the tower, but Oz is a grungy street-level gangster who is just in the muck. Now, I previously talked about how the Batman was a true noir detective series, and how the Penguin was shaping up to be a classic gangster story. Well, Reeves listed his influences on the series and the character being Scarface, but also Bob Hoskins' character from The Long Good Friday. And you can see the combination of these two characters coming into what we're getting out of Oz, not only from their attitude and their approach, but also the look and the feel. And that's the thing. Reeves is making the Batman epic crime saga, which means that certain types of stories will fit in the saga, like a noir detective or a gangster story, but also stuff like a heist or a legal drama, if he wanted to go that way. Like a legal drama focused on the trial of a mob boss featuring DA Harvey Dent. That would totally fit. As well as a heist movie with Selena Kyle breaking into some place and putting a team together. Those things would make sense. But doing something like Mr. Freeze or Killer Croc doesn't really fit in unless they've really grounded those characters. Or Poison Ivy would be a real tough sell in this setting. Now, as for expanding into other stories, these are being talked about. People are embracing the show, and the viewership is steadily climbing. Reeves and HBO are talking about doing other series, and he wants to be able to put lens on other characters. His saga is about cities and their dysfunctions and the world and its dysfunctions. Gotham is a place that should be better, and he wants to tell more of stories in it. Oz's story is Oz's stories. Now the idea is to do other stories in the same way. Now the thing that I really like about Reeves' work here is that it really focuses on the heart of the characters and what makes them tick. Bruce is damaged by his parents' murder and is a long way from becoming the hero. But the film shows him taking those early steps to move from being out for revenge to trying to make a difference. And in the movie, we see the early stages of the Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman, with the Riddler probably coming the closest to being the villain he becomes. They merged the character of the Riddler with the Zodiac Killer from reality. And what that did was it grounded him. It made him a realistic character, and it made him fit into this world. If you look at like Jim Carrey or Frank Gorshin's version of the characters, they were fun to watch. They had the maniacal laugh and the question mark covered costume and, the wildness and stuff. And they were great for the shows they were in or the movies they were in. But that wouldn't fit into the type of story that they're trying to do here. Paul Dano's version is much more grounded and a bit more frightening. It's the same thing with Penguin. Burgess Meredith played the character as almost an aloof criminal with a cackle, and Danny DeVito played him as almost a disformed, horrific outsider. But Colin Farrell's version feels real, like you could pass him on the street at any time. And it's not about the costume or the flair for the dramatic. It's about the essence of the character and embracing what makes them tick. Jay says, do you think Zaz is too close to how Riddler was for them to use him in this universe? No. Zaz is a masochist. He wants to hurt people. Riddler was different. Riddler was after a twisted sense of justice. So there is a difference there. So I could see them using Victor Zaz. Will they? I don't know. I think that they're going to do a little bit bigger stories than Zaz, but he might end up being like a subtle side character. But you never know. It depends on how much HBO wants to do these series. Zaz might end up being a perfect character for one of them. Now, I also appreciate that both the film and the series are focused on the story and not building the universe. I'm seeing a ton of posts and videos about who might appear in the show or how characters might end up evolving into various rogues. Fans are so used to building, universe building that takes place in most comic adaptations that they look for every Easter egg and cameo, sometimes at the cost of following the story. A lot of the Penguin takes place during the day, and it's between crime families. There are people asking why Batman hasn't shown up, and I'm not sure why he would. Batman patrols at night and goes to the big scenes. Maybe he would be out looking for Sal Maroni, who escaped prison, but most of everything else until the 7th episode is small and happens fast. Maybe he starts looking into the new drug on the street, but it got moved multiple times quickly, so I don't know if you'd even be able to track it. And the truth is, I don't think the show needs Batman. It's Oz's show, and he would just take away from it. I also don't think Vic needs to become Victor Zaz or Julian Rush needs to become Scarecrow. I don't think the Penguin would have been in the movie if he didn't serve a story. Little Easter eggs like the trolley car Oz uses as an office under the city, that's number 58, and that's the same number that of the issue that he debuted in. That's cool. But there's no need to sneak extra characters into the show if it doesn't move the story along. If Reeves wanted to do that, he could have made Harvey Dent the DA in the Batman. And instead of Coulson, and when the bomb went off, it could have malfunctioned. And instead of killing him, it disfigured Harvey to the point that he becomes Two-Face. But he didn't do that because it wasn't part of the story he was trying to tell. Ed says, I completely agree. That's why I love the Batman and now Penguin. It's believable with realistic people and no superpowers or far out things to suspend belief over. Plus that Batmobile. Wow, I love that Batmobile. I really do. Hey, Slipknot, good to see you. Now, how's this show going to end? That's a very good question. And not one that I have a good answer for. But that's a good thing. The ending shouldn't be obvious or inevitable. Reeves has said the Penguin will be in the next Batman movie and that the film will pick up right after the series. And it will be set in winter, which is what the show's taking place in now. There needs to be some resolution to the battle between Oz and Sophia, and Oz will likely be in a position of power when it's done. Now, there's a lot of chatter online about how Sophia will play a big part in the film as well. But that's not coming from Reeves. Like I said, Reeves says Penguin will be in the next Batman film. He hasn't said anything about Sophia. So again, take those rumors with a grain of salt. Will Oz be the big bad for the next film? I doubt it. I don't think that's his role in these. I think he's a cog in the wheel. But him moving up, becoming the crime boss, that'll be a big thing. And I think he'll be the kingpin at the end of the series. I think his mother will likely be killed. That his last guardrail to keeping him somewhat grounded will be gone. I think he might end up killing Vic himself, once again to remind us that in the end, he's still evil. And I think Sophia will be taken off the board. I don't know if they'll kill her, but I think there's a good likelihood she'll end up back in Arkham to, kind of a vicious circle type thing that they can pull her from later, but just to see her end up back there. And I think Oz will end up embracing the name the Penguin. That it'll become his moniker. That'll be the acceptance. That'll be when we know he is the Penguin from the comics. When he calls himself that. Maybe it'll be after his mom's death. That's what makes sense to me. Now, I'm looking forward to Sunday. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot to clean up. They've really done it at tidy as it went along. All of the Falcone family are gone, other than Sophia. All of the Maronis are gone. Sal died. What's left is Sophia versus Oz, and who's going to be in charge. And when one of them is gone, the other one is in charge. That's just the way it's going to work. So it doesn't need to have a bunch of answers. There's no big mysteries left out there. We need to know what happened to Vic. Why wasn't he able to get on this phone? But other than that, it's just wrapping up the story. Give us a satisfying ending. Set it up to go into the Batman 2. That's all it needs. We don't need big answers. We don't need, there's no Mephisto that has to appear. We don't suddenly need to see Julian Rush put on a scarecrow mask or, Vic to cut his first mark for the kill. We don't need those things. They don't matter. These characters are mostly throwaway. So that's what I think is going to happen, is that we're going to get an ending. And it's going to set us up for the next movie. And I think that's perfect. I don't want more than that. I don't want big mysteries. I don't want, I would like this to feel like it's standalone. That if somebody goes, like my brother is not a superhero fan. But I almost have him convinced to watch The Penguin. Because I tell him it's like The Sopranos. It's Scarface. And if it's self-contained, there's a bigger chance he'll watch it. Because that's the type of thing he likes. And the fact that it's a Batman story, or that's part of the Batman universe, won't matter to him. And that's perfect. Ed says there's another season of Penguin before the Batman sequel, right? No, there's no confirmation of that. There's been no comment from it. There are going to be other series, but we don't know if there'll be any more Penguin. I don't think there will be. Like I said, Matt Reeves has said that this is going to go from the end of the series right into the Batman 2. So where we end up is going to set up the Batman 2, which would have made much more sense when the Batman 2 was originally going to come out in October of 2025. But when it got bumped back a year, so there's a chance they'll get another show in there, but might be something else completely different. It might set up another character, might set up whoever the big bad is. So that's what we're looking at. And I am really looking forward to it. We'll talk next week about the finale, see what it sets up, and maybe try to guess where Batman 2 will go, but who knows, right? So, all right, guys, that is the show for today. Please remember to sign up for the Obsidian Moon mailing list if you would. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you can, once this show is posted and it's up on YouTube, if you could come back and leave a comment in the section, that would really help with the algorithm and getting us some more attention and stuff. So coming back and leaving a remark once the show is posted would really help me out. I would appreciate that. Stick around. We've got What's in the Box. We've got Geek Chat. And we've got SketchUp tonight. And then tomorrow, we have the Original Art Show with Nick and Friday Night Live with Nancy and the crew at Comics Unlimited. All fun stuff. And I will be back next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. And we'll see you soon.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.